We do this each and every week, Chris. It is the top 10 hottest comics of the week based off of cover prices data. That is right, based off of sales data. The hottest comics of the week based off of sales data. Cover Price releases a top 10 list on Monday. Chris and I dive into that top 10 list on a Friday, but Chris gives his 3 most interesting picks from that list. Now, granted, by saying interesting doesn't mean that, like, these are awesome. They're just interesting, and Chris tells you why they're so interesting. Manny, are you ready for this? Are you ready for the top 10 hottest comics of the week based off of Cover Price to sales? That we're not sponsored by Cover Price, guys. We just use them as a kind of a tool, kind of like a stock market index. Here we go.
Jeff said Cover Price is a tool. You heard him.
Whoa. Turning my words around. Here we go, though. At number 10, we have Stray Dogs number 1, the blank variant. Can you believe this? The blank variant. After all of those amazing covers, this makes it into the top 10. I don't understand. All of those homage covers of the horror films, I don't understand. I'm going off. I never go off like this, but I don't understand how this made it into the top 10. At number 9, we have Stray Dogs number 5, the Friday the 13th variant, which this is exactly what I'm talking about. At number 8, Thor 6/17, the first appearance of Kid Loki. If you guys are not watching the Loki series, you have no idea why this is in there. It's awesome. At number 7, Tales of Suspense. Number 62, The Origin of the Mandarin. Number 6, we have Black Panther. Number 3, first cover appearance of the Midnight Angels. At number 5, we have X Factor. Number 10, character design variant. Spoiler, Death of the Scarlet Witch. I really don't think that's going to stick. At number 4, we have White number 1, Black Mask Studios. At number 3, we have Black Cat Annual One. First appearance of Tiger Division. There's a lot of first appearances on that cover as well. At number 2, we have Fantastic Four 273. First full appearance of Nathaniel Richards, and a lot of speculation behind that. And at number 1, X Factor number 10. The Death of Scarlet Witch. Chris, there's a lot of interesting things going on with this top 10. Let's just get into it. Let's show Manny how it's done. You dive into the 3 most interesting picks here.
Yeah, definitely an interesting list. I was a little more excited about this week's list next to last week's. And a really interesting thing happened, I think, for the first time in doing the top 10, and that is that my 3 picks are actually the top 3 on the list. So, with that being said,
that's a spoiler. You just ruined it. Why is anybody going to watch now? Nobody's going to watch.
Spoiler. You're going to watch though because you're going to understand why I picked them, and that's the most important part, right? So, number 3, Black Cat Annual number 1. All right. First, for those that don't know, it's the first appearance of the Tiger Division, which is an all-South Korean team. All right? Now, let's look at sales numbers before I talk about this book. 260% increase in sales. High Raw sold for $30. Pretty solid. There's a couple of variants out there that have been selling decently well as well. Here's the thing about why I like this. Okay? Factors. 1, it's a new book that made the list. 2, yes, it's a spec book. It's a first appearance, this new team. But the reason why I like it and why I picked it is because it's branching out to the global audience. And Jeff, you and I have talked about this before. I've referenced all the way back to Jim Lee's statement during fandom of last year, where he talked about DC wanting to do things to expand, to appeal to the other markets, the global market in other nations, where comic books, probably partially due to the success of Marvel Studios and its film properties and so forth. It's not just about different nationalities and ethnicities. It's about having characters that not only look different, but they speak different, talk different, whatever it may be, and that they're actually from different parts of the world, culturally as well. They're different, and this is really speaking to a broader global audience, and that's why I like this. And I'm going to show you guys, too, of where I think this can evolve. We know, and I know when I do unboxing videos or haul videos or whatever, and I'm reading my comics and I hear about folks that live in whether it's Asia or even in Europe, some parts of Europe, they struggle with having the access to comic books like we do in the States. If we continue to grow and develop the global market, not only is it a cultural positive thing culturally, it could be a positive thing to really, in terms of the business aspect, in terms of how we can get comic books to these different markets. So that's why I'm excited about this book. That's why I picked it for one of my top 3.
Before we get to Manny, I'm going to interject here because there's been many business case studies of how representation matters. It's actually good business, right? But beyond that, it's the right thing to do. You want people to be able to relate to these characters. You want people to be like, hey, this is like me. I'm going to bring something up here. And I know, Chris, you love this book. But this doesn't speak to the international flavor of what we're talking, of what we're talking about here. But it shows how representation matters in one picture.
Yep. And I have that book hanging up on my wall.
Those kids can relate.
We can't see what it says under them because of right there. There you go. That's me.
It's honestly, man, it's like now that my daughter, she's part Mexican, and it's important to have her understand that heritage, but also be able to relate to these strong women that are from that culture as well. And it's just, I always thought it was important, but I even think it's more important now that I'm a father. So yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Manny, thoughts?
Dude, I completely agree, man. I was always one that always said, don't patronize me as a minority. If tell good stories, that's what's important to me. Like but I always remember thinking my kids are never gonna have like a Disney princess that's an islander. And then when that Moana trailer dropped, dude, I cried like ugly ass, like big tears at my kitchen table watching that trailer. So you are absolutely right. Representation matters. So definitely branching out, showing other cultures and just really including everybody is one thing that I think the comic book community does so well. Just us as fans on YouTube, on Instagram. So it's great to see the publishers following suit and just making that environment where we can all be a part. So.
Not only was the trailer awesome, the movie was one of my favorite Disney movies. I love that film. I absolutely love it. Anyways, all right, Chris, well said. But moving on, we have a new book. We have another book here. Your second most interesting pick from that list is.
All right. So again, it's like I'm telling you, I did not do this. This is the first time it's happened. My number 2 is number 2 on the list. Fantastic Four 273. Okay, what is this? This is the first full appearance of Nathaniel Richards. This book saw a huge jump, 342% increase in sales. A high CGC 9.8 sold for $400. Wow. I have a couple copies of this book. This has always been a standard back issue book you can get for a couple bucks. Not anymore. And I'm always hesitant when I talk about books to even give spoilers about the books, because I want people to be able to read. But, this book is over, 30-something years old. I'm just going to say it, King, okay? All things King right now. And that's why this book is hot. But here's again, without giving too much away. This book, in my humble opinion as well, correlates to my Immortus theory as well. And they're all interwoven and interlocked. And I think anything Kang, anything Immortus, I've been talking about it for before even the announcement of Jonathan Majors showing up in the next Ant-Man film. But this book is one. This is one of those books too. I've been tough on. Last week I showed the Thor Annual 18.
Remember, I definitely tough on that one. Throwing it around you.
I blasphemed and threw it across the room and trashed it. I opened it up. I showed you guys that it's just Loki shape-shifting for one panel as a woman, then as a dragon, and back to Loki. It's not a spec book, but people are paying $600 for this book in a CGC 9.8. We talked about the Ghost Rider, Midnight Suns, Ghost Rider 28 and the Midnight Suns. How look, these are cool spec books and all, but nothing's been announced, nothing's been official. You're buying these books based on false statements by careless YouTubers. This here is a book, although we know Kang's coming, all right? So there is something there that's official, but the broader idea of Kang and Immortus and anything related to it, this book is one that I truly believe is going to be a book that is here to stay. This is a book that is never going to be $2-3 again. And I'm not saying it's, and I always try to clarify this, I'm not saying it's going to be worth hundreds of dollars just in a raw copy, but this is a book that I think those that are living in this times, whether it's our generation or the kids coming up, reading the books and watching the movies and getting into the hobby, this book is going to be known. And that's the great thing about speculation these days, is that even if something falls off, it educates buyers and collectors to know the first appearances, the origins, these characters, and that. And I think this book now and forever is going to be ingrained in the majority of collectors saying, yep, I know that book.
I agree with that 100%. Manny.
Dude, I can't say anything more. I mean, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I think it's basically what you're saying. It's a doorway into the history. And Kang is a complicated character, like super complicated. They're not going to translate him exactly on screen. And I want to give, I don't give the mainstream audience enough credit, because I didn't think that Into the Spider-Verse would do well because of the multiverse and all that stuff, but it did great. Kang is hard. I think it's really difficult because there's different versions of him. But again, it's these things that, these books that pop up, like, hey, this is how you'll understand some of this stuff. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. As to how it's going to happen, and if it's going to, if Nathaniel Richards is going to be involved in some way, somehow, we shall see. Anyways, it's definitely a fascinating book to watch. And yeah, it's not going to be in a dollar bin much longer.
Yeah, 9.8, 400, man. So
insane.
We'll see what's going on next week with that one.
Your third most interesting pick of the week is...
All right. I said it. My number one was the number one on the list. The variant made the list as well. I think at like 7 or something. X Factor number 10. Now, here's the thing. Oh, I love that cover too. Look at that. I read Death of X, and because I'm a huge X-Men fan. Grew up watching the animated series. My brother and his friends got me into X-Men, and I always read X-Men. I've read like all the Claremont run. I've read X Factor Volume 1, X-Force. I have been turned off from X-Men as of late simply because I can't follow it. I can't figure it out. So I tried. It's just, I don't know. But look, I picked this book because of other reasons outside of reading them myself. This is the death of Scarlet Witch, quote unquote. But this book had such a huge jump because it increased 563%. That is huge. A high raw is already going for $45. But the reason why I picked this again isn't because I'm reading the story or I know anything about it. Really, I don't. But the one thing that I do know about it is that it's the love triangle, or circle of how the MCU and Marvel Studios and what they're doing with these characters is bringing the love for these characters back into the comics, and people are jumping at the comics. And it always goes back to what I say about the people that are like, oh, people that watch the movies don't even read the comic books, and this divisive rhetoric, and that I encourage people to open their minds on and realize that it's bigger than that. People that watch the films don't need to read the comic books to love the movies, but once they love the movies, so many of them want to know more and dive back into the comic books. And that's the beauty of this thing. And I'm telling you right now, this is my assumption. This is my stance, but I'm going to stand firm and make the stance right now. The reason why this book is so hot is simply because of Marvel Studios, WandaVision, and what's her name? Olsen, Elizabeth Olsen, doing what she's done to this character to make her so popular that we want to be invested in this character when we see her in the comic books. I absolutely think that's a huge factor into why the storyline is even happening, for one, and why people are so willing to, grab it up.
Manny, I'll let you go first. I have some thoughts.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't see this massive shift in readership after the movies come out. Like, the books don't sell that much better, like, to the mass market. But what it does do, like you're saying, those of us that are in the hobby, we get way more excited. And the best ambassadors to this community and this hobby is us. Our excitement level, the fact that we go out and we comic book evangelize, is what gets new readers, and we find new casts to come alongside and bring them up in the hobby. So, like, you're absolutely right. When a book like this drops, even though people like to say, well, they don't watch the movies, they don't read the books, that gets us deeper, makes us go in and love these books more, and us loving on them is what increases the numbers in the hobby. So absolutely love that. So
I agree with you guys that there is this synergy there, and I think people watching the films that weren't comic book collectors are going out there buying the comics, and I think it revolves in looking to us as people who have read the comics and enjoy the films. I think it goes full circle right there, and I agree with that, and I'm all about that. This book I have a problem with, though, and it's the death. The reason it's going crazy is because she dies, right? Mm-hmm. She dies, but let's be honest, she's not dead. She's a major character in one of the storylines in the fall coming out. Like, she's not dead. Like, and that's why everybody. It seems to me why everybody's going crazy. Now, granted, going back to what you were saying about Hickman, I can't read Hickman. I don't get it. Like, I read his Avengers run, or tried to, and I'm like, this is just way too heavy for me. Maybe I'm just a simpleton. I don't know. I have problems reading Hickman. And I know, man, you brought him up with his little charts and all that stuff. It's deep, right? And I don't know. This is just me, So I haven't gotten into any of the X books with Hickman. I don't know how this plays into everything, but all I know is people went bonkers because the Scarlet Witch is dead. And this is not sticky, right? And I don't know if it's any of those new readers like, oh shit, I better get this. This is going to be a collectible, like Superman when he died. Yeah. But so I think this is a bad example of that synergy that we're talking about here. But that's why I would stay away from this book. I mean, I'd wait. The prices are going to go down in a month or two.
The art is fucking uneven as shit in this book too. I mean, if you guys have the book, they like change artists a bunch of times. It's not good. It's not a great book. I'm just saying, like, in general.
I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you like Hickman? Do you like reading Hickman?
I like Hickman's world building. My favorite X title right now is Way of X, because that's a character story. Hickman's great at building up the world, right? Krakoa, what's happening with the resurrection protocols. All of that is cool, but that's all world building. I'm a character guy. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I look at Way of X, that's a character study. That's my Hickman is a great overall idea guy, but maybe when it gets down to the nitty gritty, he might be, like you said, a bit heady. So again, people are into that. Like, again, or I'm a simpleton. I don't know. But I can't get into it. But, going back to talking about this book, Chris, I didn't hear you say it. I don't know what you think, but I think this is because she dies. People are just going crazy.
Absolutely. I'm not arguing that, and I'm absolutely not telling you to go pay $45 for this book. That's not my point at all whatsoever. My point is simply this. I'm going to sit here and guarantee, and my guarantee is my opinion. I want people to know that I don't know what's going on. I don't have an inside source. But I'm going to sit here and say that the only reason why there is a death of Scarlet Witch right now is because the Kevin Feige-led publishing team now that handles Marvel Comics is rolling off the hype of WandaVision and bringing it into the comics. And the reason why it's so hyped up now with people going out in increasing sales over 500% and paying $45 for it is because we're coming off that hype of WandaVision as well. And when we see Scarlet Witch, something big happening with Scarlet Witch, we're going to turn to it. And then we read Death of Scarlet Witch, then we're like, boom. So that's the only thing I was trying to say. I don't. Yeah, no. Look. She's obviously. I don't know the storyline. We know people don't die in comic books. She's not dead. They're not going to kill her off. I don't think this is a book that's going to hold a lot of value. It's just it's good. Look, it's good for the industry. That's the bottom line. It's good for the industry because it's all marketing, it's all business, and we're being pulled into this stuff. And look, I say this all the time because there's the naysayers that sit and talk about people are going to get burned. All those people that speculate are going to get burned. I have yet. I hear people saying, "Oh, I got tired out and I shifted my focus." I did that. I did that with Rebirth. I got burnt, right? And I shifted my focus. But I have yet to hear somebody say, I paid too much for a book and I'm done spending money on comic books. No, you're not. You're going to go spend money on just another comic book. Yeah. So, again, look, and another thing that this does that I don't think people understand. Okay, I know the $45 raw is on the secondary market, but even the increase in sales that we talk about from Cover Prices data is from the secondary market. We're not monitoring retail primary market sales. We're not. But if a book spikes 500% after the first week of release on the secondary market, you know darn well that the publishing company made out on this issue on the primary market. And we never talk about that. Nobody ever talks about that. New books are selling. New books are selling because if they're buying them for $45 on the secondary market, that means they're going to their LCS and they're not finding them for $3.99 or $4.99 anymore. That's a positive thing. I don't care what anybody says. New books are selling. They're bringing the MCU to the comic books, and it's all, like I said, the circle or the triangle of love. And I'm all for it because at the end of the day, it makes the hobby healthy. But my recommendation for folks, don't pay $45. Pay $9.99 a month for your. Actually, you can pay $5 when you buy the year. It's only $5 a month when you pay for the yearly subscription to Marvel Unlimited. Wait, what is it? 2 months, and then you can read it for free on Marvel Unlimited on your iPad or something.
No, I agree. And something that does get lost is Feige is the head of the publishing arm as well. So again, there's more connection here. They're going to hype this character up, get more kind of publicity towards this character, knowing that she's going to be huge in the MCU because she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness, probably going to be in Spider-Man somehow, probably an end credit scene or what have you. So, anyways, okay. But right there, we'll end it because that ends our top 10 hottest comics of the week. We will have a brand new list next week, and Chris will pick his 3 most interesting picks from that list.